On the night of Trayvon's killing, there should have been an arrest. You can hear the 911 tapes of Zimmerman on the phone saying, should I follow him? I'm going to follow him. And then the 911, they responded with, don't follow him. You'll be fine. Do not follow him.
And he did everything right, and he was chased down and shot. When I hear the situation, everything bothers me. It's not just the law. It's not just the actions of one crazy man. It's the totality of those circumstances, that we have a law that makes him feel like he could do that. We have a man who would actually engage in it. And so that just shows us we have work to do on all fronts.
What happened in Sanford is it hits home because it was a young man from Miami Gardens, and I myself have 2 sons here in Miami Gardens. Race relations still have a bit to go. For me as a legislator, it means even more because a law was invoked that, you know, they said that we passed as a legislature. So I really am working my hardest to change that law.
I think that this law, the legislators did not really think it through before they actually passed it. They should have added some provisions that really explain exactly the way it's supposed to be carried. So the law definitely needs to be reviewed, and I'm so glad that our governor has actually created some kind of statewide citizen panel to really review that particular law so it can be corrected.
Today's prayer breakfast was an opportunity for us to bring men and young men together to have a candid conversation about the current events of Trayvon Martin and the tragedy that occurred in Sanford, Florida, but also try to impart on these young people some strategies on how they can respond and react to real-life situations that they currently encounter and that they might encounter as they get older.
Listen, to me, the sadness of this moment is that I thought that we were beyond this.
I am very pleased that 100 Black Men has taken the 365-day approach in dealing with our young people. I'm glad to be a member of the 100. I'm glad that mentoring is the backbone of our institution. I am glad that we have partnered with national groups so that mentoring is something that just doesn't become a discussion in a moment of crisis or concern, but it's the rule.
I'm very excited to be here among so many friends and well-wishers and people who are sympathetic to the cause of freedom and justice. This case involving Trayvon Martin's death is so significant because it points out that racism, number one, is not dead, and number two, we have not fixed the legal system so that we can accommodate those events, those negative events where Black people are targeted. And so I'm glad to be here to be a part of that audience that will sensitize people.
This event helped me realize who I was, regardless of how successful I am. It brings me back to earth. It helps me remember my past. I remember growing up in Miami and not being able to go across the bridge and being able to be out there at night. Having to have a police ID to be on Miami Beach. That kind of brings back some of those memories of my childhood and growing up in Miami. As the youth, it helps them to remember that there are still struggles out there and not to look past. You know, we have come into a multicultural world, but then we still have to remember there is a lot of racism still exists. This should be a wake-up call to them, not to make them angry, but just let them know that there are still people out there that judge them based on the color of their skin.
Well, I think our community is always impacted by these events, and we are very concerned about what happens to our young people, on how they should react and respond in these situations.
This was an important, teachable moment, not only for the young leaders, but for many people in our community.
The appropriate thing to do is to try to do everything that you can do to avoid confrontation.
And there are many moving parts to this that we feel that we have to address. And if we just simply sit by and not address it at the moment, we would lose that moment. This was a situation where it was just so outrageous, or it was so blatant, the injustice that occurred,